Coming out yesterday from Kevin Patra, Around the NFL writer, quarterback prospect Bryce Young cancels remaining pre-draft visits. Bryce Young has ended the visits portion of his pre-draft process. NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero reported Monday that the Alabama quarterback canceled his remaining pre-draft visits per sources informed of the situation. Young shutting down any further visits will fuel the belief within the league that the 21-year-old quarterback will be the Carolina Panthers selection at number 1 overall in the 2023 NFL Draft. Young completed top 30 visits with the Panthers, Houston Texans, picking at number 2, and the Las Vegas Raiders, picking at number 7. The 2021 Heisman Trophy winner has been a favorite to be one of the top quarterbacks selected in the 2023 NFL Draft, a belief that was boosted with the Panthers moving to the number 1 overall pick in a trade with the Chicago Bears last month. The first round of the draft kicks off in 10 days. Honestly, if we look at the top prospects from this year's draft, the ones that I keep hearing about, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson. Hooker from Tennessee, I think he might fall to the second. But those are the 4 guys that I'm thinking about when it comes to the first round. And honestly, out of all of those guys, I would go with Will Levis. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, they're not doing it for me, and for one specific reason. Quarterbacks from those particular programs do not transition well to the NFL. What am I talking about? Alabama, Ohio State, Florida. Those 3 universities, what do they do every year? They win. Usually. Not very often. I know Florida's been a little shaky here and there, but for the most part, those 3 programs, what do? They put forth winning football. But it just doesn't transition at all to the NFL. If we look at Florida, for example, when it comes to the best quarterback to ever come from the Florida Gators, Rex Grossman. All right? 10,232 yards. Started 47 games in 10 seasons with the Bears, Houston, and Washington. That's the best quarterback to come out of Florida. Let's look at Ohio State. The best quarterback to come out of Ohio State was Mike Tomczyk, who last played in 1999 with the Pittsburgh Steelers after being drafted by the Bears back in 1985. And throughout his career, he threw 16,000 yards, 88 touchdowns to 106 interceptions. The only closest comparison that we got of somebody who might pass him is Justin Fields, which everybody is hyping up around Chicago to be the second coming of Christ. But honestly, through 2 seasons so far, 24 touchdowns to 21 interceptions. Last season, I know he had over 1,100 rush yards. That doesn't make me feel comfortable if I'm a Bears fan. I have said it 1,000 times. I do not like scrambling quarterbacks. I think it shortens up your career. 1,100 rush yards last year, 8 touchdowns. You know what he also had? He had 9 fumbles. He had 9 fumbles as well. So 20 total turnovers last year. Not great. Could be better. Let's see what happens. Too early to tell. But I'm not banking on Justin Fields being the greatest Ohio State quarterback of all time just yet. He's still too early to tell. And then we go to Alabama. Alabama, the best quarterback. When it comes to Alabama quarterbacks, you got to go all the way back to 1968, Ken Stabler as the most successful Alabama quarterback. And right now in the NFL, you got Mac Jones, who had a promising rookie year, took a huge step back. Let's see what happens this year. I've commented on that. I think it's because of the coaching. Then we look at Tua. Took a huge step forward, but he's battling injuries now. If he can't keep himself concussion-free next season, this upcoming year might be his last. Concussions ain't nothing to play around with. And he had, 2 or 3 last season? I'm not really banking on any of these quarterbacks right now, specifically for the fact of the way that these programs are. If you play quarterback at one of these 3 schools, you are going to be successful in college. That's it. That's what those programs do. They win, and they win in college. But when it comes to their quarterbacks coming to the NFL, not a one of them has worked out. Those 3 universities. Like I said, Alabama, you got to go all the way back to 1968, Ken Stabler. Or before that, You got to go all the way to 1956, Bart Starr being the most successful quarterback before that. Or Joe Namath. You know, just to name a few quarterbacks. It was like, okay, they had quarterbacks back in the day, but that's about it. Those programs, I'm more likely to take a risk on Will Levis coming out of Kentucky, out of a shit football program, and having some success. I'm more likely to take a chance on him than I am Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or Anthony Richardson, because those universities have historically do not transition well. Great college quarterbacks, great football programs in college. People will argue, they were like, well, that was then, this is now. Correct. But who am I to sit there and believe that any of these three guys are going to be it when it comes from those universities, when nobody has been it from any of those universities for a really long time? Or as I said, the best Florida quarterback, Rex Grossman. Think about that for a second. Just something to think about. That's what I think about when it comes to all these quarterbacks coming in the draft.